Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Let's take a look at the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper this morning, where the major story is talking about President Tinubu orders the crackdown on protesters waving the Russian flag. And the writers are saying it's treason. Defense chief warns, we have no hand in Nigerian protests. That's according to Russia. Police arrest producers of flags in Kano and Nasarawa. Demonstrators defy curfew in Plateau, Kano, and dance naked in Osun State. You find all these stories, of course, on page 4 of the Daily Trust. Below the headlines that we see federal government issues travel advisory to Nigerians visiting the UK. Data depletion, NCC orders telcos to make tariffs transparent. Protest, police quiz Trust TV producer on that. I mean, we would definitely take a sneak peek and give you a dive into what really transpired there. Military takes over as Bangladeshi prime minister flees the country. Protest, gun, other exhibits looted from court still missing. That's according to Kano Judiciary. 177,914 new voters register for Edo and Ondo governorship elections. And of course, there's a pictorial of the tailor one of the tailor that was arrested sewing the Russian flags in Kano. There's a pictorial of President Tinubu, NSA, the Nuhu Ribado with security chiefs after the meeting at the State House yesterday, and also a pictorial of protesters on an armored personnel carrier in Kaduna, which the police said no, they did not take it over. They were just climbing, and the person had to swerve gently in order not to hurt them or engage them in any fight. Now, these are some of the stories that you'd find on the Daily Trust newspaper this morning.
All right, looking at the Nation newspaper, we have on the top left, NCC asked telcos to simplify tariff plans, bundles, and others. We also have 20,000 students get NEL funds, 20,000 naira each as monthly stipends. Now, boldly there on the Nation, businesses open in peaceful Lagos and bank looting in Kaduna. Flying foreign countries' flag treasonable. Chief of Defense Staff warns Nigerians. Now, on a follow-up, which is something we looked at a while ago, on a follow-up, 14 banks key into consumer credit scheme. Now, we also have on the front page, firms to power hospitals with compressed natural gas. Don't spray Naira, freed Bobrisky advises Nigerians. Well, these are the stories we have on the front page of the Nation newspaper. If you're looking to get more of this, well, do well to get the Nation newspaper and you get all of these details right there.
All right, let's head on to start reviewing these newspaper pages. We have Tuesday reviewer, Dr. Theophilus Abba, the program director of Daily Trust Foundation, joining us this morning. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
It's good to have you. You know, since the protest started, it seems we have not had a discussion of what is happening.
We are having, I don't know, the protest is still on. It has not totally ended.
Exactly.
Last time we discussing inside the protest.
Indeed.
So we are quite courageous.
Indeed. All right, so let's talk about how the reaction so far of the protest and how it led here, where we saw the president calling on the security heads to talk about how to handle this situation. It started from protest, then went to being hijacked to chaos, and then now there is a wave and call for military takeover, and even burning Nigerian flag and holding another country's flag, and all of that. What is your take on what the president so far is saying? Like, you know, they have to crack down on the people that initiated this.
Well, I think it's quite unfortunate how the protest, even that we are protesting, is unfortunate, because we shouldn't be protesting. You know, the reason is because we have a government in place, we have representatives in place, we have governors, and so these people are supposed to listen to us. They are supposed to know what we feel and supposed to act accordingly. You know, they shouldn't wait for us to enter into the street and do peaceful protest that could now become, what do you call it, a violent protest, you know, because if you look at the sequence of activities, at the beginning it was peaceful, you know, then we started seeing, police tear gassing journalists, beating up protesters, and then you now saw the violent dimension to it. So, you know, migrating from being peaceful to becoming, violent is really unfortunate. It's not what we expected. You know, what Nigerians were talking about, it's very simple. End hunger, and hardship. You know, the protesters were not even talking about overthrowing the government. They didn't say Tinubu go. I don't know if you follow.
Yeah.
They said, look, we are hungry and we are facing a lot of hardship. You know, so we want you to put an end to it. Those are the demands. The basic, we need food to eat. Things are tough. Do something about it. And if you do a measure of forensic analysis, you discover that the president did not talk about hunger. He didn't talk about hardship. Read through the speech about 2006 words. If you do the word count, 2006, there's nothing like hunger, there's nothing like hardship. The only thing that is close to that in the speech is to say, I've heard you. I've heard you loud and clear.
Yeah.
And I understand your whatsoever. Now, that same expression he had used in March 1, 2023, after he won the election. You know, at the election, it was clear that maybe the youth did not vote for him. And he said, okay, I've heard you loud and clear. I know your blah, blah, blah. I will do something about it. But there's nothing like hunger in that thing. There's no like, and you see, you now discover that there's no freshness. There was no freshness in that speech. Nothing really new. Everything he said sincerely, we are heard over and over again. You talk about all the funds, all the what they have voted for, everything we have heard them. You know, even before now. So it's like, so this guy is not even aware of what we are talking about.
All right, quickly
so the situation is. I mean, I don't think the government is helping matters. Let me put it that way.
But I understand, you know, where your frustration comes when it comes to the government. But then the protesters, you know, we've seen other people also, some of the people that said we are coming out to protest, also make a chaos out of this whole thing. And a waving of the Russian flag, whether we like it or not, was so wrong. It does not speak well on our sovereignty and how much we want to be.
No, I was shocked when I heard that some people were waving, what do you call it, Russian flags. You know, because it's very, very symbolic.
Indeed.
If you know Russia in West Africa or Russia in Africa, if you think about Russia, you think about Niger Republic, you think about Mali, you think about Burkina Faso. You know, all these countries that have been taken over by the military, you know, they aligned with the Russians. And if you see some groups in Nigeria with the Russian flag, you're actually saying that, oh, perhaps,
there should be
you know, we should think about what has happened in these countries, which is totally unfortunate, because we are not even talking about a change of government. You know, the protesters did not say change this government. The protesters said, look, we have issues, we are hungry, please address this hunger. You know, and there were other ways of addressing the hunger. Now, my own worry is this. You see, before any protest, or before this protest started, we had not less than a month's notice. Let me put it that way. Because I received calls from abroad. Some people asked me, is it true that there is going to be protests in Nigeria? I said, well, let me check. Then on social media, I will start saying,
3 weeks before.
Back. Yes, so long. So, and I expected that within this period, the security agency ought to have infiltrated the groups, planning this protest, to know exactly what they are planning, what dimensions it will take, the dangers in it, and who was doing what. And that kind of frustration is not only done at maybe only in Lagos, in almost all the areas that you think there was going to be protest, you know, because this coming as a shock to government. You know, it's amazing to me, because they're supposed to have known that, look, something like this could happen.
No,
or some persons were planning it.
It's a shock to them because the experience answers and the way they were putting out news out there, you know, talking to governors to talk to their people, did it really come as a shock to them?
No, I'm not talking about talking to governors now. You see, what I expected them to do was to infiltrate.
Okay.
You know, to say, okay, who are those planning? Let's pretend to become members, or let's have somebody who will now become our agent, who will now give us information or whatever is happening, you know, within that.
Just to make sure it's peaceful and safe.
Yes, to make sure to know, so that everything can be brought to that control.
All right.
You know, and I thought it happened.
All right, Doctor, let's move. Let's come to media. Let's look at media role. We've definitely covered the headlines of that, our major headline here. So let's move on to the protest. Due to the protest, and speaking about organizers, we saw the DSS come to the front of our office here to they wanted to take a producer of daily politics, talking about there was someone on, or police rather, talking about there was an invitation of someone on the show that was on their own radar, and initially, they wanted to have a silent arrest without having to talk to the office and all that. I don't know if you're truly aware of that case going on. Hence the reason why it was here. And I want you to talk about the relationship between the security agencies and the media.
Well, when I read the story, I was amazed because, like I said earlier, I thought that because these protesters had given notice, security agencies ought to even know them. They ought to have profiled them. Even, for instance, if I were one of the security operatives, I saw somebody on a show, and he made some comments. The next thing I would do, I'll go to social media handle and say, okay, who is this guy? Google him, check him on Facebook, check his Twitter, check it. You can now get a whole lot from him.
No,
who are even his friends?
According to them, they already know him, that he was one of the organizers.
Yes.
And our producer made it clear to them, saying she met him at the protest ground, and he said he was one of the organizers. But then the security agencies are saying they got an intel saying they plan on mobilizing, people to cause chaos. Hence the reason why there was a confrontation on it didn't look like invitation to ask about where they could actually reach this person. They wanted to just take her off the premises and quiz her on this.
I think that is clear intimidation. And I think the IPI has issued a statement about this. The media writer has issued a statement about this. Even when on the first day of the protest, you see, journalists were deliberately tear gassed. Even a journalist was beaten up. That is intimidation. If you don't want this protest to take place, there are things you ought to have done. You should do them. This idea of intimidating journalists, coming to the media house to harass journalists, carrying guns and all those, that is actually not the solution. The solution lies with government, sincerely.
All right, now let's move on quickly to one of the stories we have on The Nation, which is one of the things the president mentioned in his speech, CNG. And he said firms to power hospitals with compressed natural gas. What's your thought on this whole CNG thing that the government is rolling out? Do you think it's doable in Nigeria at the moment?
Well, it always falls into my phrase, the government of the future tense. Now, the CNG project did not start yesterday. CNG has been on the table since 2020. If you remember, CNG has been on the table since 2020. I remember former Vice President Sibajo talked about CNG. Yes. The former Minister of Transport, talked about CNG. Silva, former Minister of Petroleum, talked about CNG. And that was when we're talking about even the hike in the fuel price. Say, no, if you increase the fuel price, they say, look, there will be CNG vehicles. And there was even a promise that, look, they were going to subsidize the cost of converting our vehicles from petrol to CNG. Yeah, that was in 2020.
He said it in his speech as well.
In 2020. Now, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, we are still talking about a future when this thing will be done. You see, if you are talking about CNG vehicles, I was thinking that the president talked about it last year when he became president. Before the end of last year, we should have seen not less than maybe in Abuja here, we should have seen not less than maybe 100 of those vehicles. So that people drop their cars in their homes. But when you keep talking about what you are going to do in the future, people cannot believe you, even children. If you tell a child, I'm going to do this for you, I'll do that for you, again and again, you say, Daddy, you are not going to do it for me, because you have said it again and again. What we want done is that, look, if you talk, don't even talk about the CNG again. Let's see them rolled out. You understand? Let's see them rolled out. Because as long as you keep promising us, we are tired of receiving promises. For those of us who have seen many Christmases, they've been promising me since the days of I don't know. So I'm hearing a lot of promises. So these promises have not translated into anything genuine, and that's why you see Nigerians will go out to protest.
All right, so at
Indeed.
this point,
Thank you so much, Doctor.
we are looking for
For
action.
joining. Indeed. Appreciate you for joining us, Dr. Theophilus. Wish we could go through. We have a lot on the front page, but thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we have come to the end of Daybreak this Tuesday morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Please do stick around. At the top of the hour, Adeni Ajishafe will bring you 360 Sport. I am Sumaya Abubakar. Do have a lovely Tuesday.
And I am Lilian Ogazi. Please remember to stay safe if you're out there protesting. If you're opening your businesses today, try and stay safe. My name is Lilian. Do have a lovely Tuesday.